What's up, everyone? It's going to be a massive week for crypto, with Bitcoin still above 100K and many altcoins aggressively starting to break out across the market. In today's video, I'll give you all the information that you need to know heading into the week and the US market open to make sure that you are totally across all the developments in the market. We had some big tariff news in terms of the deal between the US and China, which we're going to discuss. We'll talk about the implications of that on the market. And then I'm also going to answer a fundamental question, which lots of people are asking right now. Should you trust this pump? Is this the beginning of a much bigger move in markets? Or is this simply a shorter term bounce, which is ultimately going to fail like many of the other bounces that have happened over the last few months? Well, I'm going to answer that question today and give you a framework that enables you to profit in this market environment. There are also lots of trade updates I have to give you because it's been an absolutely mental few days of trading. Just to recap some of the crazy trades we've had. Obviously, you can see here WIF is one of the top gainers today. That was one of them. 2 days ago, I talked about WIF at 70 cents, about how it was breaking out. Opened a trade, which I shared in my Discord, and this morning it was up plus 362%, one of my biggest per leverage trades of the year so far. It pumped to $1.20. So well done to everyone that watched the YouTube show for this setup 2 days ago, and well done to everyone in the Discord. I posted my update there at the same time as well, so you don't miss anything even if you didn't watch the video. Then a day ago, I also talked about Nillion being a good coin to buy on the pullback. I'd also spoken about it in weeks prior as well, even below the 44-cent level. But this really exploded this morning to 61 cents. I also think, by the way, this can definitely go higher. It's still only around $100 million market cap for one of the most hyped new AI launches. Obviously, they launched in terrible market conditions, though. But this is a typical airdrop / new launch fractal that these coins often exhibit. You see a huge pump on launch day, then you see price come down, then you see price consolidating sideways. We're waiting for the breakout, and now you're seeing the expansion, obviously with range high being at 80 cents. Anon as well was another massive trade that I shared in Discord and also on YouTube at $4.50 on this breakout here. I said it was bullish divergence. You have high time frame reclaim, higher lows, noodle flip, good setup right now at $4.50, as you can see. And now it's absolutely pumping. I think this morning it hit $9. It's back to around $8.20. They have lots of announcements this week. Obviously, they're teasing the launch of their iOS mobile app launch. And someone asked me in the Discord today, like, Miles, what do you think longer term about Anon? And I said, look, to be honest, there aren't that many good AI projects in the space. And it's probably one of the only tech stacks that I've personally been able to use and see and verify that it's actually good. And I would use it in my daily life. So I think that's the litmus test when it comes to a lot of these AI protocols. Like, is it actually usable in your daily life? And right now, there are only a few that I actually use. Anon's one of them. Vertical AI is another one. It essentially aggregates a bunch of models, so you don't need to hop from, ChatGPT to Gemini. It's like consolidates them all in the one place for different use cases, and you can build your own models. These are the types of products that I would actually use in my daily life, and there are a few more obviously launching very soon, but I think that's the number one test, right, when it comes to products. Would you actually use it? Now, I have a big announcement to make before we get on to all the important news in the market, and I'll talk about whether you should actually trust this pump or whether you should fade this current market move. And that is the fact that we are reopening. It's been closed for a while, but we are finally reopening my private Telegram group. So I don't know how long I'm going to keep it open for, but I will give you the opportunity to join using the first link in the description right now. It's called the Vault. And basically what the Vault is it's going to have private alpha, behind the scenes, and updates. So I have heard a lot of your feedback that the Discord is too expensive. And personally, I don't think it is, given all the value there. However, I understand. Not everyone has the money. Not everyone is super experienced in this community. There's a lot of new viewers that want to maybe get to know me a little bit more without taking the plunge and buy our full product suite, which essentially has, traders, analysis, alpha, courses coming soon, our new platforms coming soon. Like, Miles High Club has a lot of amazing stuff, but we also acknowledge that there is a need for something to bridge the gap. And this is one of the reasons why I've launched the Vault. The other reason we're launching the Telegram again is because there are just so many times where I want to share some alpha, but it's very difficult for me to share it to the YouTube audience. And also updates, right? There are a lot of coins that people want updates on that it's just so hard you're going to make a YouTube video every time you want to announce a partnership or drop an alpha leak or hint at something upcoming. It's just way harder for me to share it on YouTube. Obviously, YouTube's great for long form education. It's great for going through charts, but it fails in the market update aspect. And that's also a lot of feedback I've gotten from people on the channel. Mars, this call was great, but when price started dropping, you didn't update us. And many times I had updated on the coin, but you may have not watched that specific video, and I don't expect everyone to watch every single video because they're 30, 40 minutes long and I'm uploading daily. So to have a place where I can post updates, news, information, portfolio positioning. If I wake up in the morning and I feel like the market is a little bit overheated and I'm taking 20% off the table, that's where I can make a quick update without having to make a whole video on it, in the middle of the night. So that is why you should join the Vault using the link in the description, because it's going to be the place where I share a lot of this stuff, and I'll give you more of a look inside my daily life as well. It's also a place you can get to know me better, and hopefully if you enjoy the content, then you can also take the plunge and join Mars High Club, which is an amazing community that we have on Discord. For all the Discord members, I want to make it clear this doesn't replace Mars High Club. This is actually additive. This is bridging the gap between the YouTube channel and the Mars High Club. And this is going to sit in the middle. And if you like it, I'm sure lots of people will join the Mars High Club based on the information we have there. I'm going to be posting a lot of trade setups in here as well. Because Telegram has very good trading bot functionality, we can actually do all sorts of really cool like trading bot, automated strategies, automated market updates, that kind of stuff natively within the group. So it just makes a whole lot of sense to get serious about Telegram. Again, we did like a little soft launch last year, but now we're doing the full launch. So there's only 2,000 people in here. That number's going to skyrocket, I'm sure, after I put out this video. So make sure you do secure your spot. Link in the description below. Post will start going out on there as soon as today. And it's also good from a market update perspective. Like, let's say after I release this video, in 12 hours, the market starts to break down or break out. I can give you updates on my shorter term positioning too. So it just makes a whole lot of sense to launch the Telegram, and there's going to be a whole lot of alpha there. All right, now let's get on to the brass tacks of the current environment, and that's firstly macro, and then we're going to answer the question, should you trust this pump? And then I'm going to get into how I'm approaching the market right now. So let's jam-pack the remainder of this video with some banging alpha for you guys. The first update that I have for you on the macro front is that the US markets are rallying quite aggressively after the US and China have agreed to slash tariffs on each other's goods for 90 days. So this is basically a de-escalation of the trade war that spooked markets and resulted in a few weeks ago Bitcoin dropping to 75K, which was actually a great opportunity to buy. And if you're watching my videos at the time, I was buying the most Bitcoin and equities I've ever bought over those 2 days. So you've got to remember, the fear is the best period in markets to accumulate. Now, it is a little bit different from alts. We'll get into that later, because in altcoins, although fear's, a good time to accumulate long-term positioning, for short-term trading and swing trading, you actually do want to wait for a trend to establish. So that's why typically during these big dips in the market, I'll go in heavier into Bitcoin, majors, maybe some low caps, as I mentioned at the time. I was doing a little bit of it, but I wasn't going crazy into alts because I wanted to see a bit of life in the market, which we're obviously now getting. But those buys were amazing. And what I've actually done, to give you a bit of an update that I also told my Discord this morning, I've been selling out of some Bitcoin because technically it is heading into resistance. It's not there yet, but it's in the resistance range. So I've just been selling a little bit, going heavier into cash. Same with my equities. I've been DCAing out of equities, taking some of those profits off the table. I think I'm already 30% up on my NASDAQ buys. And then this additional liquidity I'm using to open up more trading opportunities. So I don't really understand this whole, logic in the market of needing to be fully deployed at all times. If you hold additional liquidity, that's amazing, because when you see a great setup you like, now you have the ammunition to actually go in and take bigger risks with those trades, because you are contrasting that with a larger cash weighting in your portfolio, which protects you against downside because you have liquidity to take advantage of opportunities in the market. So that's why right now, I think I said this on my last video as well, I'm sitting around 50-50 cash versus investments right now. Now, that might seem relatively risk off given where we're at in the market, but it's actually not. It's the perfect place to be for me personally, because I'm doing crypto every single day, to take advantage of swing trades. Like, I don't know what the next trade's going to be. I've got a couple actually later in today's video, which are about to break out. Like, I might want to go and put 400 or 500K into those trades, right? I might want to go and deploy a serious amount of capital if the stars align on an opportunity. When the markets pick up like this, what happens is that risk appetite comes back. And when risk appetite comes back, opportunities come back. People are now open and receptive to bidding alpha. A couple of months ago, a team releases news that a listing's coming or a tier 1 VC is investing. The market doesn't move. The market doesn't care. There's no liquidity. When liquidity comes back, now these little alpha tidbits that I hear and now these big announcements that happen, they actually materially impact the market. And that's why I want liquidity for environments like this. So if you are completely sidelined right now and you're feeling the FOMO, we'll touch on this in a few minutes as well, you're actually not in a bad position, because you could still take advantage of all the opportunities that'll come if this pump is real, which we'll also discuss. But let's continue with this US tariff discussion. So they slashed tariffs on each other's goods for 90 days. US tariffs on Chinese imports are going to fall from 145% to 30%, while Chinese tariffs on US goods will fall from 125% down all the way to 10%. So this is actually a bigger cut than most people expected, but 30% is still a high tariff, to be honest. Like, that is relatively high, but at least they were able to negotiate things down, and at least for the next 90 days, there's a bit of headroom in the market. This is something I also discussed a few weeks ago. Like, there's probably headroom for the first time in a while for the market to run, and this only adds to that, and it's one of the reasons why equities are rallying, and they're up a few percent today pre-market, so things should look good. As Dan Crypto says, it's going to be an interesting week as stocks are up big, but Bitcoin and ETH haven't had the giant move that they did during the weekend earlier on. And I think the reason for that is because there is a lot of liquidity now that's going into equity. So I think Nachi puts it pretty well here. They say, best trade deal we can get, referring to the 90-day tariff cut. Everyone is celebrating, but Bitcoin doesn't pump. Equities do. I mean, it did actually lead equities, so there's a bit of a catch-up play happening at the moment, the other way around. Why? Massive amounts of inflows going into Bitcoin ETF with macro uncertainty. Now it's reversed. This isn't good news for Bitcoin, whilst US equities become more attractive now. That's why you see NASDAQ pump 4%, but Bitcoin flat. Expect Bitcoin tops out locally around here, finally corrects before it fully sends to all-time high. You know, this framework's interesting because 2 days ago on my latest market update show, I did talk about how I was expecting, one of my frameworks was that Bitcoin would hit a new all-time high later in the year. So it would make sense for Bitcoin to top out at some point in the next few weeks. Then maybe over summer, liquidity dries up just a little bit. I know we say it every year, but it typically does, right? June, July, August, it might be a bit slower on the Bitcoin front before the interest peaks back into the market around Q3 heading into Q4, which is when I think we have an all-time high. And then what I think happens, and this is gun-to-head scenarios here because I don't, no one knows what's going to happen in the market, and I actually prefer to be a reactive trader, but some of you might find it interesting. Nonetheless, I think after Bitcoin hits an all-time high, we see slowing growth, we see a weakening US economy, and we see a mini bear market of sorts in the first half of 2026 before Bitcoin actually goes on a bigger run later in the year. So this could be like a multi-part bull run. Another Bitcoin high later this year, then like a mini bear market, and then another run later that year. So there's going to be lots of volatility in markets, but as traders, as investors, we do like volatility. So ultimately, that's a good thing for the market. But I wanted to read out this Nachi tweet just to explain that Bitcoin was actually acting like gold. So with gold starting to come down, Bitcoin is maintaining relative strength better than gold, by the way, because it's maintained at around 104, whereas gold has actually dropped 3%. This could go maybe even sub 3K because lots of people are putting their money back into equities, but you got to remember gold and Bitcoin led before equities ran. So it does make sense for equities to recouple a little bit with Bitcoin after it outperformed. So it does make some sense. But I'm sure what you want to talk about right now are altcoins, not just Bitcoin, because even if Bitcoin, as long as it holds above 100K, even if it has a little bit of a retrace, then at least there is a bit more of a risk on sentiment coming back into the markets now. So with this risk on sentiment coming back over the last week or so, should you actually trust this pump? That is the question I want to answer now, and I do have an answer. I actually posed this question to my audience. I said, timeline seems to be very divided as to whether this is a dead cat bounce or the start of a bigger trend. What do you think? Because there were lots of people saying that it's the start of a big bull run, and then there are lots of people saying, the majority of the moves already happened. And the timeline seems quite divided, probably skewing a little bit more towards the bullish camp, just because the algorithms, especially X, incentivizes you to be with the trend. When the market's bearish, the post with bearish stuff gets more engagement. When the market's bullish posts get more engagement. That's why X is generally a pretty bad resource for crypto information. Now, on the YouTube side, the algorithm works similar. People do the same, myself included, on the thumbnails and the titles, but difference is the information of the video can be really authentic and honest. Like, there'll even be times where, YouTubers, and I'm guilty of this in the past, will, bait with some bullish stuff, and then in the video we'll say, look, we are bullish, but these are the caveats, and this is what you actually need to do in practice when it comes to execution. So that's why I actually like YouTube as a platform, because you can still play the algo whilst giving people real, honest, raw, great quality education in the actual video itself, because you have the time to do it. But on Twitter, it's mostly a bunch of people just, following the trends. But I digress. I want to discuss whether I think it's a dead cat bounce or, an opportunity to maybe actually ladder out, or if it's the start of a bigger trend. I do want to firstly acknowledge Alo's tweet here, because I think it's pretty apt in terms of the shift that we've seen in the market. Alo says, it's pretty clear that the Trump and China tariff episode's coming to an end. There will be no attempt to meaningfully lower US debt. The show goes on. Total 2, Total 3, and others are all looking good for moves up after what now looks like a late cycle pullback. Plenty of alts still won't get near their all-time highs. I agree with this, because the market is so fragmented, because there are so many altcoins. You have to be more selective than ever about the alts that you're in, and that's something that I'm going to do every single day on these shows. Tell you the good altcoins in the market, and I'm meeting 20 to 30, or my team, I'm meeting 20 to 30 teams a week. We're meeting a lot of founders. We're meeting a lot of teams. We're in contact with a lot of teams, because we constantly want our finger on the pulse when it comes to the market. One thing we're even doing now is we're trying to extract more alpha from these teams to find out what's upcoming. So all of this stuff gives me and our audience at Mars High Club an edge over our competition, especially in an environment like this. But because many of the other altcoins won't hit all-time highs, you got to make sure you're in the right alts. And if you're in the wrong alt, at least you have a trade with the validation on it. You still either want to own quality, Alo says, with good fundamentals, or total garbage that gamblers like. Don't fall somewhere in the middle. You will simply underperform BTC. And I totally agree with that. People are still scared, and the market, from what I can see, is offside. 100%. I think there are a lot of people fading this move, and a lot of people are annoyed about the move. This is how the market continues to leg up. I don't think you've missed much if you're sidelined, because fiscal responsibility has gone out the window, so risk assets fly much higher. And I do agree this happens over the longer term. I think you see a significantly higher altcoin market by the end of the year, but when Bitcoin hits its new all-time high. The only thing you have to be wary of is this short-term move, and not over-allocating right this second in the short term, because even if alts hit new all-time highs later in the year, you can still get chopped up if we retrace here, and then the market maybe doesn't perform like people think it will in the short term. I still think it's better to have a long-term bias when it comes to altcoin investing, and separate your longer-term investing with your shorter-term trading. So in today's video, I've got some shorter-term trades and a framework for shorter-term trading, but I want to make sure you have a distinction between the two. I think it's a big mistake right now to start laddering into, or buying, or FOMOing into long-term spot just because the market's moved. Oh, the market's pumping. Okay, let me load into long-term spot. You should be probably treating these shorter-term entries, and I've had plenty of entries, as trades, and then differentiating that from coins that you're happy to hold longer term. I like what Gold says here, though, on the fact that market participants are offside, which is something Alo also pointed out. He said, everyone TPing a few days ago into a major trend shift, many looking for a pullback for re-entry, many offside. People still don't think this time is different. Here's the thing. Even if you're completely sidelined right now, you really haven't missed much, right? Okay, there's been big moves on memes, big squeezes, mostly on the coins that were overshorted. However, most of these trades were very hard to predict or pinpoint. You would basically have to be gambling on the lows of many coins, or scalping super low time frame to make huge moves. Now, obviously over the past couple of days, there's been huge opportunities to make profit. That's why, I was able to hit such a big WIF trade, and some of these trades have been really, really good to me, but I wasn't the earliest player in the market to the move. I didn't even buy alts heavily like 2 to 3 weeks ago at the very bottom. All I've done is play high time frame reclaim setups. So the good news is, even though some have done that, there are still a bunch of alts which haven't done that yet, which if the market keeps running, probably will. And if not, well, you're fine, because now you have key levels to work off and actually invalidate against. It's kind of crazy, as I mentioned before, that people think they need to be fully allocated during times like these, when you can have a larger cash weighting and then use that as leverage to go in and out of big trades. I think if you want to get really direct now and answer the question of should you trust this pump, then my answer would be you should trust the trend at all times. You should always be following the trend in crypto. When people try and counter trade the trend on low time frames, it often gets them wrecked. So on low time frame trading, low to midterm, I always want to be with the trend. The only time I'll counter trade the trend is when it comes to long-term investing. And that's why I'm asking you to make that distinction, right? This is a great tweet from Follows, which sums this up. He said, the worst losses I ever took in crypto were when I tried to short strength or buy weakness. Every time price reversed, I would see hundreds of P&L cards from dudes who sniped the Pico bottom or top. What I didn't realize was that most of these dudes tried 10 times before getting their entry. Eventually, I figured out that it's almost never worth trying to be that trader. Always wait for the market to show its hand and then trade with the trend. And this is what's happened at the moment. The market has shown its hand. Bitcoin's back above 100K. Many alts are in uptrends. Many alts are reclaiming. We're going to go through in a couple of minutes here some of the setups which are only just now reclaiming. These are new trends that are establishing. You can trade these trends. And if that trend reverses to the downside, then you also trade the bearish trend. There's no need to make rash moves in the market to try and counter trade the market. As Follow says, who cares if you miss the first 20, 30, 40%, as long as you're catching the meat of the move. If this move goes a lot higher and you position now, as long as you have the correct risk parameters, you're still catching the meat of the move, even though you haven't bought fully off the lows. The key though is to make sure that you have risk parameters, and that's why the only setups I'm focusing on right now are the ones with very strong technical reclaims and invalidations. So this is basically my framework now into what I'm doing. I did mention this a couple of days ago, so I'll recap it, and then I'll get into the new trades that I didn't speak about a couple of days ago, and I'll give you an update on TIA and a couple of other coins as well, checks that also have interesting charts right now where I'm personally making moves like today. So here's the playbook right now. Long, strong alts on pullbacks, firstly, until the trend has shifted. Whilst they're still above key high time frame levels, you can long pullbacks. Like Nilium would be an example, like major pullbacks I'd still look at getting into. Anon right now is also an example, as long as they hold above key levels. So, for Anon, it's $7, this support. I'm just giving you examples, right, on the charts I already have up. On Nilium, it's the money noodle, but this zone here, 40 to 47. As long as they maintain above, pullbacks are for buying. Obviously, if you start to make lower lows, so below this wick here, this would be your line in the sand for potentially a bearish reversal pattern. As Follow says, you always want to maintain with the trend in the market. You want to swim with the current. You don't want to swim against the current. The second thing I do is I'd set stops below prior lows, as I just showed you on. Most of your trade execution is going to happen on the H1 and H4, but I will use 1 day, 3 day in order to validate larger, higher time frame moves and trends as well. If you're invalidated, you want to wait for reclamation and re-enter. So you want to make sure you catch the trend, and you may have to pay a price to do this. You may have to enter a few times to do this, but that's all right. Conversely, in the bullish scenario, and we've gone through a few of those scenarios today, if it continues to move higher, you can just keep raising your stop into profit to make sure that you never get caught out of a trade. So I basically view the line in the sands for the market right now as Bitcoin at 100K and ETH at 2K. As long as Bitcoin remains above 100K, I'm receptive to longs, generally speaking, as long as the technicals of that individual alt line up. As long as ETH remains above 2K, that's also great for the market, because a higher ETH obviously has a trickle-down effect into the rest of the market and how other infrastructure plays are priced in the market. So these two levels are my lights on and lights off modes in the market. Right now we're lights on as long as we're above it. If we go below, we're lights off. During lights off environments, the only thing you want to do is either sell short-term positions or long-term positions on major pullbacks. In lights on, you don't want to really be adding too much to your long-term bags, but you do want to be very receptive to shorter-term trades. There are some exceptions where I'll add to a long-term bag if it's still severely undervalued, and there are a few alts in the market which are I guess, undervalued from a structural perspective, but you have to be wary that you are paying a premium. Just be aware of that. All right. Now let's get into some real setups. In the Discord, by the way, if you're in the Mars High Club, I've been sharing a ton of setups every single day, dropping lots of alpha. I'm more active than ever there. And what I'm actually doing is I'm answering questions in Questions for Miles. So I answered a bunch of voice messages, as you can see this morning. You can ask me any question. I answer every single question, and then I go into the coin updates channel. I tag my answers on every coin. So if you ever want to know about any coin at any time in the market, you just go into coin updates and you search it. So you search Anon from Mars Deutsche. Sorry, this is the Mars Highbot. Anon from Mars Deutsche, for example, and it will give you all my updates on Anon. If you want to search checks from Mars Deutsche, it'll give you all of my updates on checks. If you want to search up literally any coin you want to know in the market. TIA, you could see all my updates. WIF, you could see all my updates. So the reason I've done this is to make sure that at any moment in time, you have my latest thoughts on a coin. And if you don't have a recent update, let's say my WIF update was 3 weeks ago and you want one today, then you simply go into the Questions for Mars channel, ask me a question, and then within 24 hours, I'll answer, and then I'll add it to the coin updates log. So this is a way to make sure you're always in tune with what's happening in the market. And by the way, I know some of you may have joined and then left Mars High Club, but and I know a lot of you stayed. I think the majority did. However, I want to remind you that if you did leave, there's nothing wrong with joining back when the market's hot. If you feel like you get the most value during the 1 month stretch where the market's super hot, then just come in, join for this month, take advantage of all the amazing trading we're doing at the moment, take advantage of the new trading hub, which you may not have been there when you were in there before, take advantage of all the trading setups that we have, and just do it for a month. And then after this lights on mode goes and Bitcoin goes below 100K, whenever that is, then you can exit the group again. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but it's your choice, right? I just wanted to give that option to people that are like, yeah, I joined and I didn't get much value. Maybe that's because it wasn't a period in the market where there was a lot of value. Whereas right now I know there's a lot of value because I see the value. I see everyone printing in the bragging rights channel. I see the profits. Everyone joined this WIF trade. Raj, 999%. Marsh, 801%. It's actually ridiculous how much money people have been making. The Paradise Goat trade was like 2,400%. It's absolutely insane. So you can just join for this month if you want. Anyway, let's continue. The setups I really like in the market. How did I actually spot WIF? Let's go educational for a second, because some of you be like, oh yeah, Miles, you're just gloating about WIF. Like, how did you actually get that trade? So what I saw were two things. I saw a momentum shift. So I saw the money noodle start to get broken. And this basically has been the level that we rejected off all the way down in the downtrend, right? Once this flipped, that was my first sign here to start going risk on again, or at least consider the coin for longs. Then the second thing I wanted was a high time frame reclaim on the daily, and that's exactly what we got on this break. Then we had the pullback confirmation, and then we had a big pump. So there were two entries for me. This compression and money noodle flip in this level, that was the first zone. I bidded the retest, and then the second level here on the breakout. So you're looking for these over-under type setups, these reclaim setups right now. These are a lot of the strongest setups in the market. Because then you have invalidation below. That's why I like them, right? Below the money noodle, you had inval here. And below this level, you had inval below the prior week. You have two invals on your two entries. So I like a lot of setups like this. It's also how I caught the Nillion trade and a bunch of other trades as well. So would I enter WIF now? Probably not. I'm riding. I'm just TPing a little bit, but I'll continue to ride in case it goes higher. However, what I would do is I would look at other setups that looked like WIF a few days ago. What are a few? MNT right now. I like the chart a lot. On the 3-day, you can see it's now starting to reclaim this level. You can also see it's flipping the money noodle on the higher time frames as well. And on the daily, it looks really good. You have the higher lows starting to kick in. So this is one coin where I already had a spot bag, but I added a little bit more, and I'll invalidate below if it breaks down below. They actually recently had a Coinbase listing announced as well, which is great. And fundamentally, this isn't just a trade. I actually do hold a long-term spot bag. Mainly because, there are a few reasons. Obviously, Mantle Bank and their AI stuff and their, on-chain investment portfolio stuff. But what I really like ultimately is the synergy with Bybit, one of the biggest exchanges, how they have listings on Spot and Perps. They're on Bybit's Launchpad. You can access products only by staking MNT. So this basically increases the flow of liquidity and increases price stability for the token because there's always demand for the token, and of course means it has a larger community. So because it's so embedded in the ecosystem, it's almost like BNB to Binance. But obviously Bybit doesn't have a token. This is basically the next best thing, right? So that's one of the reasons why I think I have some solidity to hold this position longer term. But I also wanted to point out the chart today as well, because not only is it fundamentally bullish long term, short term, it also looks quite good. TIA is a trade that I front ran. I already started to enter a little bit low, but I actually front ran. Technically, it's only now just starting to break key levels, and I think this is a bit of a slept on layer one. Heavily oversold, was really, really hot a year ago, but has actually been gaining market share for data availability versus Ethereum, and is a coin that I think probably makes a move at some point. So I think this one looks really, really good. I just saw Plume actually. Some of these charts right now are wild, seeing this is starting to make a move. This was actually a coin that I longed as well. I shared this in the Discord a couple of weeks ago on the break of the range high there. So that's another coin that looks good. Paradise is giving it an update this morning. He says, still in bonk. Fartcoin Virtual picked up a bit more bonk and virtual over the weekend. These consolidations look quite good for upside if Asia starts bidding, which they were, but I have more limits for further down under the consolidation in case we get a retrace this week. So these are some of the strong coins right now. If you just want to long leaders, you can just play long continuation on bonk, Fartcoin Virtual. A lot of the strategies that Paradise teaches are perfect for long continuation. You also have a lot of these rally-based rally setups, which we see where price rallies, forms a base, price rallies, you can just keep buying the range low, so this level here, or at least bidding the breakout of the new higher high on the coin. You can see Paradise playing the low here on bonk. There was probably also some synergy into we can't see his indicators, but I would imagine an RSI reset in line with a noodle retest, which is what he calls his bread and butter strategy. That's all taught in the Discord, by the way, if you are in the Discord. I'll leave a link in the description below. If you want to join Mars High Club, it's always in the description, because he teaches that strategy in his educational section. All right, some more high time frame reclaim setups. A coin I mentioned earlier in the video, Vertical AI. This is also reclaiming. This is very, very, very similar to WIF. It has the breakout, flip of the money noodle, perfect clean retest, then a break. Now we're getting the other retest, and hopefully it continues to move higher from there. So this is one where I actually added to my positions today. Fundamentally as well, like Mantle, there's a short-term case, but there's also a good long-term case, which is why I'm splitting up my bag short and long-term. This is something you can also do, right? You can trade a coin in the short term, but you can also have a long-term bag. I do the same with most coins, checks, Anon. Like, I'll mess around in the short term, but I'll also keep some long-term positioning. But I actually really like the product for Vertical AI because it pretty much allows you to use each independent model. So Grok, ChatGPT, DALL-E, Cursor, and it enables you to do it all on one platform. So you can get access to all of these models on one platform instead of hopping around, which is really good. And you can make custom models, and it's very, very cool. It's a very cool infrastructure. I'm going to do a video at some point, probably just on this, or maybe even on my AI channel, which has more dedicated stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed that AI video yesterday, by the way. Lots of new AI content is coming soon. But yeah, that chart also looks good. I said I was going to give you an update on checks. Fundamentally, there were a lot of things that I liked meeting the team at Token 2049. They're still super aggressive and strong on the BD front. Those announcements are coming soon, and that aligns with the technicals for me. You're starting to have on the higher time frames a flip of a key level, a resistance level now turned into support. On the daily, you also have a money noodle flip. So for me, this is a decent setup to continue to move a little bit higher. Another type of setup that's separate from this high time frame reclaim plays, which we've been discussing, is the support consolidation setup. So Pinlink, 2 days ago, I pointed out that it was consolidating at a key level where it had tested and reacted to so many times. Since then, you'll see that we had that reaction. So if you watch that video, you should have gotten a nice entry there. It's already up 50%. So sometimes what happens is coins just find a floor. So if you find any altcoins, if you go through your charts and you find any alts which are just consistently bouncing off a floor and have shown the propensity to get bidded and supported at those levels, then that gives you confidence that you can just bid these levels and set inval below, which was, a great strategy on Pinlink. And then, your next target for this is $1.40 to $1.50 up there. So because there are so many trading-based opportunities in the market, what I really recommend you do, and I said this a couple of days ago, but I'll remind you again, is really get your trading watch lists in order. Make sure you get every coin that you're monitoring for a setup now, monitoring as a potential setup, break it down by sectors to make sure that you never miss a trade. The good thing is you can always just add these little tags. So green could be an active trade that you're in, red could be a trade that you're monitoring, orange could be a trade that's about to happen. Work out a system, however you want to do it, labels, colors, just be organized. I think this market is all about organization. Have your information sources curated. Obviously, we've got the Discord. If you want a really full, rich experience with a lot of hand-holding, a lot of education, a lot of information, that's going to be your go-to. You don't really even need another Discord. Then we've got the Telegram, link in the description to that, which is going to be a little bit lighter, but regular updates for you on the market if you use Telegram. That's free, link in the description below. Ideally, you have both in an ideal world, but you've got both options there for you depending on what you want. And that way you can curate your information sources down. And it doesn't even have to be me. If you don't, I assume at this point you like my content after watching 35 odd minutes, but it doesn't have to be me. As long as you find someone you like and you have a good information source, you can just narrow that source down and really focus on being organized and absorbing the right information that you need to know every single day. That's basically the best way to approach the market right now when there's a lot of noise flying around. I'm back with daily uploads right now. I think I need to be here every day with just how the markets are moving and all the crazy stuff that's happening. So I'll keep you up to date every single day. So notification bells on. I'll see you in the next one. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Good luck in the markets. I'll see you in the Mars High Club and in the vault. Peace out.